Hi guys, it's Taylor. Welcome back or to my channel if you're new here. It has been a hot minute. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I've actually sat down in front of the camera for over 2 weeks. I took a little bit of a break. I'm having like a midlife crisis. I'm fine, but I think I'm gonna try to post once or twice a week. I'm just finding myself. I don't know what's going on, but I'm doing my very first book video. If you guys watch the vlogs, you would know that I do really enjoy reading. It's probably my biggest hobby, and whenever I have free time, I'm on my bed reading. I'm finally back on my reading grind, so I thought it is the perfect time to share with you guys all of the current books that I've read in 2022. I have 7 here. My goal for 2022 was to read 20 books. So if I stay on track, I think I can reach that goal. I'm not going to give away the plot or anything. I'm just gonna kind of explain how I enjoyed the book, take it with a grain of salt, and I will have them all linked down below. Let's get into it. You guys definitely know majority of these books. I love a good book recommendation. If I see it on TikTok, I will buy it. So you guys have definitely heard of probably all of these, but we're gonna go in order, starting with the first book that I read this year, and that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm also gonna do what I rate it, 5 stars. Honestly, out of all of the books that I read this year, this is the book that I still think about the most. Like every few days, I'm thinking about the plot and the characters in this book. So that's how you know you really enjoyed it, if it's still resonating with you months after reading it. I honestly didn't think I was going to enjoy this book because I kind of judged it by the cover, but it exceeded my expectations. I absolutely love how it ended, and I did not expect it to end the way that it did. It actually like blew my mind how the characters and the storyline and everything just overlapped. I'm sure you guys have read this, but if you haven't, please do. The second book of this year is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. And good God, these two are probably tied for my favorite reads. This was the second Colleen Hoover book that I read. I read It Ends With Us first, and I thought that was going to be my favorite book by the author, but this takes the cake. It goes through 2 different character POVs, which I really like. So you get to know the characters better, and it kind of lines up the storyline for you. It goes back and forth between the present and future, which is really interesting and helpful to the plot because you learn stuff about the past, and that's the reason the way certain characters are in the book. It's romantic, it's deep, it's spicy, which I liked, and the ending was absolutely amazing. Like, I did not expect it to end like this at all, and I was really excited to find out why the book cover looks the way it does, and at the end you realize why. Like I said, out of all of my Colleen Hoover books, this is number 1. Okay, the next book that I read I don't have with me because I gave it to my friend to read, but it is Verity by Colleen Hoover. After finishing Ugly Love, I was on such a high from her, so I wanted to read my other book that I had. Verity also is a 5-star read for me. It's not the typical storyline that I go for. It is more of a thriller than a romance book, but it does still have romance in it, which I enjoyed. I kid you not, I finished that book in under 48 hours. I could not put it down. Like, once you get hooked in a Colleen Hoover book, I swear to God, the rest of your day is a write-off. You are finishing that book. I wouldn't say that it is scary, but some parts definitely make you a little uneasy, and I was like holding my mouth at some parts, like in shock. And I really like how she ended the book because you don't really know what ends up happening. There's 2 different ways the book could have ended, and she outlines both of them for you, but you never really know which story is true, if that makes sense. I don't want to give away too much, but it was amazing. Book number 4 is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, I think is how you say it. This was, I would say, like a 3-star read for me. This was really highly recommended on my Instagram, and I believe I've seen it on TikTok before, but it's not typically a plot that I would gravitate towards. I really like romantic books. Don't get me wrong, it was an amazing book, but it's just not really my style, and compared to the other books that I've read, I don't like it as much, so that's why I'm giving it a 3-star. That being said, I did finish this very quickly, I believe. In 2 to 3 days, I could not put it down. I think I read like over half of the book in one sitting because I was so intrigued by it, and I could not put it down because it's not like anything I've ever read before. It's a very mature and different plot than what I typically read. And again, I was blown away by the ending. I really liked how I couldn't predict how it was going to end. Like, it's actually wild. If you guys are into thrillers, psychological storylines, I would recommend this one, but it's not typically something I would reach for. Next up, we have another Colleen Hoover book. This is Reminders of Him. I believe this is her newest release. It got released this year, and I heard a lot about it all over social media, so obviously I wanted to read it. I will read anything Colleen Hoover. I have so many of her books on my TBR. I give this one 4 stars just because I'm comparing it to how I enjoyed all of the other books that I've read. It's essentially about a young mother trying to reconnect with her daughter who she lost contact with, and the author throws in some romance, which adds a bump in the road to her meeting her child. It was an amazing read, and although it had a ending I expected, I still really enjoyed it and I would recommend it, but it's 4 stars for me. I just found it was kind of cheesy and predictable, but those aren't necessarily bad things. It made for a really good read. On to book number 6. It is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is probably my most recommended book that I've got from you guys, and honestly, for a good reason. It's one of those books where you don't realize how lucky you are to be reading it for the first time, and you kind of take it for granted, honestly. That's the way I feel about Daisy Jones and the Six and the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, so I don't know. Taylor Jenkins Reid just really does it for me. I did finish this one pretty recently, I think last week, but I'm still thinking about the characters and it just makes me so happy. It's based back in the 70s and it's about the rise of a rock band called Daisy Jones and the Six. It's an interview style, which I've never read before. As you can see, you're constantly getting different POVs and insights from all the characters, so it requires a lot of attention when reading. Before you get into the book, there's a review from Reese Witherspoon, and she couldn't have said it better, so I wanted to read it to you. So it says, I devoured Daisy Jones and the Six in a day, falling head over heels for it. Taylor Jenkins Reid transported me into the magic of the 70s music scene in a way I'll never forget. The characters were beautifully layered and complex. Daisy and the band captured my heart, and they're sure to capture yours too. Go off, Reese. And that is exactly how I feel. You get the rock era, romance, friendship, fighting. It's just, please read it. Like I said, I just wish I could read it for the first time again. That's something that Taylor Jenkins Reid is so good at, because the 3 books that I've read by her, Daisy Jones and the Six, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and Malibu Rising, all have left that feeling in my heart. So I love her. The very last book, number 7, is The Paris Connection by Lorraine Brown. I haven't heard anything about this book on social media. I just saw it in my local bookstore when I was picking more books up, and this one I did read the back of and it sounded right up my alley. I was just going for something super cheesy and just a feel-good romantic read, and I have this, like, I don't know if dream's the right word. I don't know what it is, but ever since I was young, I've just always kind of daydreamed about like falling in love with someone in Paris. I don't know, I'm a full-on romantic. I love love. This was everything that I wanted. It's essentially about a girl's trip with her boyfriend going wrong, and she ends up getting separated from him and falls in love with a local Paris boy, and it is so good. Although I loved it and I will never forget it, it's gonna be a 4-star read from me just because it was pretty cheesy and predictable. Like, I was like cheesing at the end of it because I just loved the way that it ended. A charming romantic read which gave me a real hankering for croissant. Those are all of the books that I've read so far this year. Definitely let me know if you guys enjoyed this video. Reading is a huge part of my life. It's like my #1 hobby, and it's something I love and am passionate about. So you guys will definitely be seeing more book videos in the future, probably when I've accumulated another pile of like 6 or 7 books. But I will have all of these linked down below, and if you guys have any book recommendations, please leave them down below because I have an ongoing TBR that I'm always looking to add new books to. All right, bye, love you.